Okay, so now an EY Spirit Seeker's story. The Druid's Temple. Julie ran her torch along the chalky wall, the beam catching on something like veins, thank you, Mary, in the stone. The cave breathed around them, cold, damp, and faintly sweet with the mossy tang of old leaves. Despite the salt wind that bullied the entrance, somewhere beyond the sea-gnawed cliffs with a slow-bored patience. It's bloody damp in here, grumbled Daz. That's the last time I'm getting location information from Jane Peck. Oh, shut up, grumpy pants, said Julie in her best Leeds voice. Welcome to the least cosy temple I've ever not been invited to, Rowena said, stepping over a slick rib of rock with the disdain of a cat, avoiding a puddle. Do we get pews, or is it all stalagmite chic? It's a druidic chamber, not a church, Cat replied, adjusting her rucksack straps, and the stalagmites don't care for your interior design quips. Daz grinned, shoulders already powdered white from brushing along the limestone. He and Julie had founded EY Spirit Seekers to pursue a passion and a shared stubbornness. And this sort of place, that ones that didn't want you, had become their specialty. You ran a hand down Dave's head. The bichon frise's LED collar made a pale ring of halo light in the dark. All right, Daz, Dave murmured. No chasing phantom rabbits. Rob and Rachel squeezed through the pinch point. Thank you, Mickey. You're in this in a minute. Breath fogged, they were EA Spirit Seekers, friends and frequent co-conspirators on investigations that smells more of trouble than dust. Rachel's fringe stuck damply to her forehead. Rob's case clinked like an anxious cutlery drawer, and he cursed as tiptoes through the tulips burst out of his backpack. I miss attics, Rob said. Nice, sensible floorboards, and just the occasional spider. Sorry, just correcting a typo. Spiders don't perform solstice rites with a side of human bone, Rachel said, peering at a cluster of carvings. Look at this. Ogham. She glanced at Cat, hopeful. Could be, Cat said, already fighting down the little thrill that Proof always tried to bribe into her voice. Or a farmer with a penknife and a lot of free time. We'll see. Mary and Mickey were already at work. The equipment experts moved with the quiet practice hustle of people who discovered the trick of making fuss look like precision. Mary set a geophone on a dry shelf of rock, the device sprouting cables like a patient sea creature. Mickey unfurled a laser grid, bathing the chamber in green geometry. Thermal EMF meters, full spectrum cameras, EVP recorders, each found a roost where the drip hadn't yet claimed dominion. Thank you for the rose. 2 more roses to complete the flash goal. Power check, Mickey said. 10-minute baseline. If nothing moves, we can blame D. It's a public service, D said. People need cooling down after hearing Daz's jokes. Oi, Daz said. They're artisanal. Lisa D moved slowly, and the cave seemed to notice her. She had a way of unpicking the air, like thread from a seam. Drawing out the tautness, until the space stopped. Quite glaring at them. She knelt by a napped altar stone, grown with a crust of flowstone, set 3 crystals, black tourmaline, selenite, labradorite, in a patient triangle, and laid a palm over them. "This place has a memory like old oak," Lisa said softly. "It's not angry, not yet. Cautious. You know when someone looks at you and you can feel them counting the knives in the drawer?" "That's oddly specific," Dee said. "It's oddly accurate," Joe murmured from the threshold of the inner passage. The empath's eyes were damp, bright in the torchlight. She rested a hand against the rock as if it were a flank that might startle. Standing stones under the hill, 9, no 7, and a wound where 2 should be. Voices, but they breathed like the tide. Pull, hush, pull, hush. I think the temple listens before it speaks. "So we're in the druidic equivalent of a passive-aggressive dinner party," Rowena said, smashing. Julie drank a swallow of coffee from a thermos. It always tasted of metal and reassurance underground. She looked at Daz. He knew the glance. It meant the plan had begun. "All right," he said, voice growing, that cheerfully crisp edge that made strangers do what he wanted. "Mary, Mickey, grid and geophones stay. Thermal on the eastern shelf. Rob and Rachel, maybe try an EVP in the inner alcove. Joe, stay with Lisa. Kat, vigilance is your specialty. Do what you do best." They spread into the alcove's slow heart. The Druid chamber was not grand the way brochures like to sell the past. It was compact, human-sized, a dome scoured by water, a ring of stones barely taller than a fence post, their tops worn to sullen humps. Between them lay the altar, chalk stone and blackened in a way that had nothing to do with fire. Blood. Overhead, the ceiling shone like a low tide, scalloped rock catching their breath and sending it back colder. Dave paced the ring with a working dog's seriousness, nose low, tail held like a question. Every now and then he paused, ears pricked, to something humans couldn't conceive of. The bass line was ordinary until it wasn't. The geophone picked up a slow tremor that wasn't C, thank you, Mickey, wasn't drip, and wasn't the shuffle of people. A hollow thump, thump, then a third, softer, like a footfall that knew it had an audience. "Could be infrasound," Kat said, but she said it quietly. "Could be a bodhran," Rod said, listening to the recorder's soft hiss, "if the bodhran were inside a giant's chest." "Oh, thank you." Goal achieved or something, that's good. Right, where was I? The EMF meter on the altar blinked into a polite frenzy, needle dancing between 0.2 to 5.1 milligauss. As if remembering steps from a lesson, Mickey frowned. No power lines within a mile. Nothing overhead. This isn't kit chatter. "It's pressure," Joe whispered. "The kind of silence that happens just after something finishing speaking, or just before." Lisa D's fingers traced the crystal. Thank you, Dee. Lisa D's fingers traced the crystal triangle, The little stones felt warmer than they should be in air like this. She breathed out, slow and steady, and spoke, not as a spell, as films imagine them, no fireworks, just a boundary that sounded like manners. We are guests, she said. We're here to listen. We mean no harm. We carry our own light. Thank you for the donuts. Dave woofed, as if seconding that. Woof. The EVP recorder popped. Then in the soft sea of white noise, a thread. Rachel adjusted the headphones and her mouth went small. There, she said, listen. She handed the headset to Julie. A woman's voice walked the static, too thin to have a throat, too old to remember the pleasure of lungs. Leave the stones, it breathed, standing for the night. You heard that? Julie asked. Oh, wow, thank you for the corgi, thank you. You heard that, Julie said, handing the set to Kat. Kat listened, eyes narrowed to a scientist's slit. After a moment, she swallowed. I heard something. That could be the phrase if you wanted it to be. Dee looked impatient. If I wanted to hear a shopping list, could it be that? Rowena said. Because we're out of biscuits. Rowena. Dee. Pillock. The green laser grid trembled as if something brushed it. Mary's camera clicked obediently, catching 3 frames of nothing and one of less than that. A hollowness in the air, the shape of a person who didn't remember how to be one. Not a cold spot, a cold absence. Blue-black on thermal, a negative afterimage that stepped between the 2 stones and lingered long enough for them all to learn its height. That is not a spider, said Rob. No, said Rowena, quietly. Dee nodded grimly. Dave whined, not in fear, but in outrage, and padded towards the gap. He stopped just short, turned his head, the way dogs do when they're listening for a thin sound, and put one paw down with ceremony. His paw touched a crack in the floor. The crack was new. Hold up, Mickey said, crouching. This wasn't open 5 minutes ago. Sea cave, Dee said. Movement is... No, Joe said, voice tight and small. This is choice. They worked their torches along the fissure. It led like a vein towards the altar, and then underneath it, and then vanished into a seam where the stone changed colour, as if stained by something that had soaked upward, not down. Lisa D placed her palm near it, not touching, her face creased. That's a wound, she said. The missing 2. 2 stones? Rachel asked. 2 names, Jo answered, almost to herself. Taken, hidden. We're in a place of keeping safe, and someone broke the keep to make a hold. We're not moving anything, Julie said firmly, Leeds' voice almost breaking out. We came to witness, not remodel, record, observe, establish boundaries. Then we go home and frighten ourselves with the footage, like normal people. Daz crouched. He could feel the air coming through the crack. Too cold even for this place. He tasted metal on the back of his tongue. Pennies and old rain. Mary, he said, pass me the endoscope. They snaked the tiny camera into the seam. The screen showed a silver-black tunnel glazed with water. Then there was something worked into the walls, the suggestion of figures scored and chalked with soot, drawn not to be seen by anyone with full daylight to waste. Ogham again, Kat said, unable to keep the hunger out now. If it's genuine, that's... The geophone thumped. Closer, like a hand on a drum, right beside them. The laser grid shivered again. A low, almost kind sound rolled through the chamber, like a breath that had forgotten it was breath and learned to be a cave. The absence on thermal came back taller than any of them. And this time it came with others, smaller, paired like parentheses. D, Julie said, say something rude. D replied, careful, it's my native tongue. She stepped into the ring, hands on hips, chin up at the absence, like a girl facing a head teacher who had lost the plot. Right, listen up, we're guests, we said, which means we wipe our feet and we don't nick the silverware. It also means you don't loom at the dog. He's a professional. You've had 2 millennia to sort your house out, so if something's broken, say so in a manner consistent with modern data capture. Yeah? Hi, Kath. The static laughed. It might have been drip water finding a ledge. It might have been a woman remembering. The voice came thinner but clearer. 7 stand. 2 under. Keep the circle. Keep the sea. Under, Rob repeated. Like under the altar. Like there's a second chamber, Rachel said, eyes alight. A sink in the bedrock. If the stones are missing, the pattern is unstable. And unstable patterns bleed, Joe whispered. People come here, they take the night home with them. Charming, Rowena said. Who needs party bags when you can have a curse? Lisa D set a 4th crystal, a small dull pebble of smoky quartz she'd been saving for a day that looked just like this. No lifting stones, she said to the air, polite but not soft. But we can mend the pattern, a shore to lean on till morning. With rocks and good intentions, Kat asked, somewhere between a challenge and hope. With a boundary, with consent. Yours or theirs? Both, ideally, replied Lisa. Mary and Mickey moved instinctively, measuring the ring's gaps, mapping the angle of the missing pieces. Daz fetched 2 fist-sized stones from the cave mouth, ordinary, honest bits of cliff wet with spray. He placed them just outside the ring, where the geometry told him they wanted to be, like commas resuming a sentence. Lisa D breathed on the crystals, arranged them in a new triangle that bridged the wound, and murmured again, not instructions, invitations. Please and thank you. You stand, we stand, the tide will turn. Dave sat beside her and leaned his warm shoulder against her shin. The LED collar he wore hummed faintly in the cold. For a moment the cave was only cave. Drip, drip, grid lines, breath. Then the laser net stilled, as if pressed flat by a palm. The absence on thermal softened at the edges. Shapes that were not shapes retreated to their stones. The geophone registered 3 slow beats. Thump, thump, thump. And then a bass drum set down. On the EVP, the voice came one last time, tired but satisfied. Leave the stones standing for the night. We should go, Julie said, listening to the sea's timekeeping. Tide's turning. Data points before we pack, Kat said, but her voice said she was already leaving. You didn't argue with tides, not anywhere, with a cliff's opinion of humans. Rob and Rachel round up their leads, the recorder still running, because endings sometimes said more than beginnings. Mary and Mickey collapsed the grid to firefly sparks one by one. Joe touched each of the existing stones with 2 fingers and a hush of gratitude. Lisa D collected the crystals but left the smoky quartz where it was, as an honest gift. Not theft. Dave stood, shook himself so his collar chimed, and sneezed at the altar as if clearing the air. They emerged to the last spoonful of sky, the world less a cave and more a living room of wind and cliff, and gulls yelling the same gossip they'd yelled since Roman sandals were a novelty. The sea had crept closer, the path home glistened like a dare. Coffee, Daz says, producing the thermos like a magician producing a dove. Jaffa cake? It's not a cake, it's a biscuit, Rowena said, taking two. Fight me. Technically a cake, Dee said, instantly. There was a tribunal. It's about tax. Remind me never to invite you to a picnic, Rachel said. You'll start quoting case law over the crisps. She's very helpful at customs, Rob added, deadpan. Julie smiled, the kind that warmed places caves couldn't. Good work, she said. No trespasses, no broken ankles, no existential crises, no one was possessed. That's a win. We'll review the footage, write it up, credit EA for the classy mic work. As always, Rob said, mock bowing. As often as we can get away with it, Rachel added. Lisa D stood at the entrance a beat longer, gazed down in the dark. It'll hold, she said to the cave, till morning, maybe longer, if no one takes souvenirs. We could put up a sign, Daz said. Please don't steal history. That would explain my reception, Mickey said, waving his mobile at a baffled sky. They started back along the path, torches making slim ovals that wandered like polite moths. Behind them the cave sighed, not unhappily, not quite. Dave trotted ahead, then back, patrolling the line between night and the people he considered his herd. Halfway to the track, Dave stopped and looked serious in a way that shook every joke from the air. He nudged something towards Daz with his nose. A pebble, not like the others, veined green, as if leaf shadow had been trapped in it. A hint of scoring on its face. Not quite Ogham, not quite accident. Lisa D crouched. She didn't touch it. This might be a thank you, she said. Or a receipt. We didn't buy anything, Kat said. We rearranged their furniture and left a crystal. Barter's older than coin, Lisa replied. Sometimes you go in peace and we won't be cross. It's the whole deal. Fine, Julie said. We accept with humility and we keep it in the kit until we know what it wants. If it starts humming, we come back here with it. They walked on through the thinning night. The salt march below breathed out its soft, rotting sweetness, a perfume of old summers. Far out beyond the cave's black mouth, the sea shouldered the moon and grew broader. The cave would flow and the Druid's temple would drown. Deep as sleep, until the stones were stones again. Back at the van, they stowed the cases with all the care of a good ending. Mary logged the time, Mickey ticked the boxes. Rob and Rachel filed the tapes with the smugness of people who'd caught a whisper and knew it. Jo leaned her head against the cool window. Dee sat beside her. Rowena offered Dave a treat. Dave took it politely. So, Daz said, angling the mirror as the engine grumbled awake, EY Spirit Seekers and EA Spirit Seekers, joint statement. We went into a cave, annoyed no one, and something politely asked us to leave the furniture alone. And we did, Julie said. We left it standing. For the night, Lisa added, barely above a whisper. Tomorrow, Rowena said, fastening her seatbelt, someone will come and take selfies and nick a rock and blame the vibes when their car won't start. Then we'll come back, Julie said, bright and fierce. We've got torches and tea and Dave. We'll keep the sea where it belongs. Dave wagged content as if he'd known the ending all along. The van's wheels found the road. The cave receded. The night smoothed behind them. And somewhere under the hill, 7 stones stood very still, while 2 others slept under them like wolves. and the tide slid its cold hand over everything and promised to return. The temple, listening, kept its end of the bargain. For now. Okay, that's me talked out.